Let's get into the press release that you released on May 24th about the no-fly list, which is going to be implemented in Canada on June 18th. Could you talk a little bit about the no-fly list? What is it? When is it going to take place?
It's a list of names of human beings that, in this case, would be Canadians, that somebody, we don't know who exactly the somebody is, decides is a risk, terrorist risk, and therefore is not going to be permitted to get on a plane and fly in or out of Canada. And that all flows from the event the 9/11 event in New York City in September 2001. The whole terrorist, anti-terrorist, the business, which is it's another whole thing we talk about, fundamental understanding what's going on. So the no-fly list is a mechanism that's a particular instrument in the globalists in their direction of control and power over all of us, and they're using the governments. The governments are participating with those globalists to create a state, really, a situation that is undemocratic and unconstitutional, and getting away with it because they do it under the guise of security and the necessity for the protection of the country, without telling us and really explaining what's going on. Now, the no-fly list in the United States has been in existence for a couple of years already. And the thing for people to understand is that everything that they do in the United States is going to happen in Canada, and the no-fly list is just an example of how it comes here a couple of years later. The reason everything is going to be done here that's done in the United States is that under a Liberal government, Prime Minister in 2005, Paul Martin, signed a Security and Prosperity Partnership Agreement, and going back before that to December of 2001, John Manley, who was the Deputy Prime Minister at the time of Canada, Liberal, signed a document called Smart Border Declaration with Tom Ridge, who was then the Homeland Security Chief in the United States, that basically promised to do this, to bring in a no-fly list.
Mm. Okay, yeah. Can you just break down that document for us? What is the Smart Border Declaration? Could you just break that down for us? What is the Smart Border Declaration, and what did it state exactly in terms of creating a no-fly?
The Smart Border Declaration is a list of terms that John Manley and Tom Ridge agreed would be the kinds of things that would be a good thing to do, and to secure the borders, to make North America safe. And I put all that in quotation marks. And it included matters like integrating our borders, which they've done so much already. If you try to go across the line, or you go fly in any airport, you see our security people all with this. If you look at the things on there, the labels on their shirts, they're all joined with the U.S. They promised to do things like bring in identification papers, where everything, all our information, all our personal information, our data, our eye prints, our fingerprints, our face prints, will all be put in maybe on a license, on a driver's license, or maybe on a passport. Exactly which way they're going to do it, we don't know yet in Canada. They're doing it with licenses and the driver's licenses in the United States. Tracking devices on cars; these things are already happening. You go in certain highways in Ontario, for instance, like the big one that was sold, was privatized, and in order to drive on that, there are machines that track the cars as they go through, and a lot of vehicles can't even get on there unless they've got this I forget what the exact device is. It's some kind of a transponder. The tracking devices, the RFID, the initials for it, identifiers again, tracking devices are promised that they're going to be bringing in. Many promises, other terms that deal with the airports, with ferries, with matters that deal with business, trying to make things easier to go back and forth in terms of business. I just don't happen to have the list in front of me, but people can go to our website, the Canadian Action Party website, www.canadianactionparty.ca, and right on the home page there's an article that I wrote called "The Metamorphosis and Sabotage of Canada." If they look in there, in that article, I refer to the Smart Border Declaration and lay out some of the terms of that. And as a matter of fact, if they even Google Smart Border Declaration, they might be able to bring it up. A lot of these are government documents that have been, they removed them. They're not so easy to find. But all the information I've got in that article of mine have come from either our own government documents or U.S. Government documents. And the thing to understand about the whole unification process is everything is being done piecemeal, deliberately. So on its own, it can maybe look kind of good. Like someone say, well, gee, sure, as far as the no-fly list is concerned, isn't it a good thing to have the bad guys identified? We don't let them on planes? Well, no, it's not a good thing, because how do you identify? How do you target this person? And you see, the thing about the no-fly list, I can't find out. You can't find out if our name is on there. You're only going to find out when you go to the airport and you try to fly, and then the computer tells the airport people you're on this list, and they don't let you on, and then you're not going to be allowed to fly. And in the States, experience already that's been happening there. I mean, children, babies have not ended up on the list because their name happened to be similar to some other name of somebody that somebody decided or defined as being a potential problem. Ted Kennedy was on the list, and he had a hell of a time getting off. You see, these are unelected. These are bureaucrats who are operating the system, but the insidious thing is that we don't know how they choose the names. We don't know whether our name is going to get on there, and there's no easy process of getting off. What they do with all of this anti-terrorist stuff is say, well, you can go to the courts, you can do this and you can do that. Well, it's not so easy for an ordinary person to have to go through the courts. And anyway, why should we? I should stop and let you ask me another question.
Transport Canada is setting up a new office to appeal the no-fly list, inclusion on the no-fly list. But
yes.
I'm wondering about what you think that the role of that office is going to be, and whether it's going to be a legislative nightmare to get your name off the list.
It's going to be a nightmare, I can tell you right now. As I said to you at the beginning, I'm a lawyer by profession, and I was a practicing lawyer in the courts. I did a lot of work as an advocate. That's what I was. I was an advocate. I was the kind of lawyer that goes to court and fights for people. And I know how difficult it is when you have to be put through any kind of a process to try to defend yourself or to justify yourself or to deal with an issue. It's cumbersome, it's expensive, and it's not something that we should need to do. We live in a country that prides itself on being democratic. We live in a country that has built-in rights and freedom guaranteed in our charter. Freedom of movement is a fundamental right in this country. Freedom to move from province to province is a fundamental right in this country. It's a fundamental violation of those rights to have a no-fly list to be operative in this country that in effect does violate that fundamental right of movement, freedom of movement. To be in a democracy, to be free, means you're fundamentally free to move. And it's just wrong. Absolutely wrong, unacceptable, inexcusable, and harmful to the interest of the ordinary citizen to have that kind of a practice functioning. And it's not acceptable. And every citizen should just rise up and say, I don't care what excuses or what justifications or what mechanisms you say you're going to put in place to get me up. Why should I have to, after the fact, somebody puts my name on there and then puts me to the expense and the difficulty of trying to get myself off? That's, again, a fundamental violation of the kind of law that we've had in this country. In this country, we have a tradition of law that says we are innocent until we're proven guilty. It's not that we have to prove our innocence, it's that the state has to prove our guilt. And this kind of a no-fly list basically says, you're guilty, we put you on the name, and if you want off, you have to prove you're innocent. That's wrong. 100% wrong. 100% fly in the face of centuries and centuries of legal precedent and practice and entitlement in this country.